Amira Cole's cane tapped softly against the cracked sidewalk. Beside her, Echo, her guide dog, walked in perfect rhythm. Steady, protective, loyal. She didn't need to see the danger to feel it. Footsteps. 3 of them. Closing in. A voice slithered out of the dark. "Hey, sweetheart, where you headed this late?" Amira froze. Her grip on Echo's harness tightened. "Home," she said. Calm. Careful. Another voice laughed. Low, taunting. Pretty voice. Shame you can't see what's about to happen. The sound of shoes scraping closer. Echo growled, a warning in his throat, then a shove. The cane clattered against the curb. "Back off!" Amira shouted. Echo lunged before they could touch her, teeth flashing, a growl ripping through the night. Chaos exploded. One of the men screamed, another cursed. Then, the metallic click of a gun. "Get that mud off me!" Metal scraped, a gun racked, then a single crack split the block. Footsteps receded. Echo's growl collapsed into a whimper. Amira fell to her knees, reaching blindly through the rain until her hand met something warm. Sticky. Silence. And in that silence, a slow, steady exhale from a man watching from the shadows. Her father. This is Black Stories, where the pain of prejudice is told, and justice always finds its voice. If you believe a blind girl's safety and a service dog's life are worth more than any thug's ego, like this video, and subscribe. Because in the next minutes, you'll watch a father the streets underestimated turn grief into justice, and make a whole city listen. Morning broke slow, like it was afraid to wake her. Through the thin blinds of their small apartment, soft gold light spilled across peeling walls and a table set for 2. The first sounds weren't of footsteps or chatter, but rhythm. Ticking clock, distant train horn. Echo's paws clicking softly against the floorboards. Amira Cole moved through it all like she'd composed it herself. Her hand brushed the wall, fingertips tracing familiar grooves. She didn't stumble. She glided. Every motion was precise, controlled. Her world was sound and touch, not sight, but she made it beautiful. In the kitchen, Marcus Cole watched quietly. Broad shoulders, scarred hands, the stillness of a man who'd seen too much to speak freely. He cracked eggs with the same precision he once used to clean a rifle. When Amira entered, Echo's tail thumped against the cabinets. "Morning, Dad." He smiled, that rare kind that barely touched his lips but softened his entire face. "You're making breakfast again," she teased. He chuckled, silent but deep. Marcus had learned to describe the world for her after her diagnosis, long before Echo ever came into the picture. He'd spent nights awake between deployments, practicing how to turn what he saw into words she could feel and imagine. It wasn't obligation. It was penance. Because once, he'd been halfway across the world when she lost her sight. A car crash. Drunk driver. Her mother gone instantly. Amira, 6 years old, woke in a hospital and never saw light again. He never forgave himself for not being there. So now, he never missed a morning. As Amira sat, she listened to the sizzle of bacon, the scrape of his boots. "You're pacing again," she said. He paused mid-step. She smiled. "You walk like you're still in the military." He froze for half a second, then laughed, the first sound to break the silence fully. When breakfast ended, Echo guided her to the bus stop. Marcus stood at the window, watching, arms crossed. His eyes followed every car, every stranger too close to the curb. She waved back toward the sound of the window. "Stop worrying, Dad," He drummed 3 steady taps on the window frame, their code for "I've got you," and under his breath added, "I lost one family. I won't lose another." At school, the world grew colder. The whispers, the accidental bump that made her drop her books, the teacher who said, "You're so brave, Amira," in a tone that stung more than it soothed. She smiled anyway, because she'd learned that pity was just cruelty with better manners. By the time the final bell rang, she was already counting steps home. Not to escape, to return, to echo, to the one place that didn't treat her like glass. That night, while she hummed softly in her room, Marcus trained alone in the garage. Barefoot on concrete, each jab cutting the air, sweat dripped, breath steady. On the shelf beside him, a folded American flag, a photo of Amira at 6, and a framed certificate. Echo, certified service dog, dated last spring, partner to Amira Cole. He looked at it, fists clenched. Once, he fought for a country that now crossed the street when it saw him, but for her, for that girl inside humming off key under flickering lights, he'd fight the whole damn world again. The next morning felt different. The neighborhood was still half asleep, but tension hummed beneath its quiet. Marcus drove Amira to school in his rusted black pickup, a machine that rumbled like it was built out of anger and loyalty. Amira, as always, sat with Echo at her feet, hand resting on his fur. "He's been restless lately," she said softly. Marcus glanced in the mirror. Dogs sense storms before people do. Amira tilted her head. "You mean weather or trouble?" He didn't answer. The school sat like a fortress. Brick, barbed gates, metal detectors that buzzed but never stopped what really mattered. Inside, kids moved in clusters. Belonging here was currency, and Amira had none. She walked past a group of boys loitering by the vending machines, their laughter sharp, cheap, and practiced. One of them, Derek Vaughn, leaned against the wall, tattoos crawling up his neck like barbed wire. "Yo, Stevie Wonder," he said. "Need help finding the special ed room?" Laughter rippled. Amira didn't stop. Echo pressed closer, low growl rumbling in his chest. Derek sneered. "You gonna let your mutt talk for you now?" "Leave it, man," one of his friends murmured, eyes darting nervously to the hallway camera. But Derek never did leave it. "Tell your dog to fetch me a reason not to take that cane and—" "Enough!" The voice cut like glass. Ms. Delgado, the art teacher, stood behind him, arms crossed. "Vaughn. My class. Now." 2 suspensions last semester hadn't stuck. His uncle's alumni donor fund always softened the landing. Derek smirked. "Sure thing, ma'am." But his eyes didn't leave Amira. He mouthed a silent promise. Later, the rest of the day crawled. Every step down the hall carried new whispers about her dad, her blindness, her attitude. By lunch, someone had posted a TikTok of her missing a tray on the counter with the caption, "Girl can't even find her food, but found an attitude." She didn't see it, but she felt the laughter. That vibration in the room when cruelty becomes a sport. Back home, she tried to hide it. But Marcus noticed the slight shake in her hands when she fed Echo. "What happened?" "Nothing." "Amira." She sighed. "Just kids being stupid. It's not worth—" He slammed the fridge door, startling even Echo. "Don't ever downplay disrespect. That's how rot spreads." His tone was sharp, but his eyes were scared. Later that night, she heard him outside, talking to someone on the phone in the cold. "You said you'd keep him away from that school, Reese?" "I'm warning you." Pause. Then the quiet fury of a man whose words carried history. "You tell your boys to back off, or I'll remind them what silence looks like when it's trained to kill." He scrolled past old texts from a buddy in Iowa who owed him, a breadcrumb trail he'd been collecting since the last time Reese's crew made trouble. Amira stood at the window, Echo beside her, brow furrowed. She didn't know who Reese was, or why her dad's old military voice had come back after years of quiet. But one thing she did know: the world around her was shifting, and whatever storm Echo had sensed, it had already begun. It happened 3 nights later, the kind of night where the city swallowed sound. Amira and Echo had just left the library. She carried a stack of Braille music sheets, her latest obsession, learning to feel piano pieces through rhythm. Marcus had insisted on picking her up, but she'd convinced him she was fine. "It's 5 blocks, she said. "Echo knows the way." And he did, until the corner of Sycamore and 8th. That's where the laughter started. Low, mocking. 3 voices. Familiar. Derek Vaughn and his 2 shadows, Reese's boys. "Well, look who's out late," Derek said. The smell of weed and gasoline trailed his words. "Ain't Daddy Navy SEAL supposed to be walking you?" Amira tightened her grip on Echo's harness. "Move!" "Or what?" he sneered. "Your little mutt gonna write us up?" They circled, sneakers scraping concrete. One of them flicked a lighter, flame dancing in front of her face just to watch her flinch. But she didn't. "Leave me alone," she said evenly. "Why?" Derek grinned. "You think you're better than us 'cause your old man used to play soldier?" Echo growled, teeth bared. The sound changed the air, thickened it. Derek's smirk faltered. "Control your dog." "Echo," she said softly. "Easy." The dog's body went still, muscles coiled like a spring. And then Derek made the mistake. He reached out, fingers brushing Amira's braid. Echo moved like lightning, a flash of white teeth, a shout, the sound of fabric tearing. "Ah! He bit me!" Derek stumbled back, clutching his wrist. His friends jumped away, panic flickering between them. "Back up!" Amira shouted. "He's just protecting—" The metallic click cut her off. A gun. "Get that freaking dog off me!" Derek's voice broke into a scream. "He drew blood, man." "Put it away," one of his friends said. "You're crazy." Bang! The world went silent. Echo dropped instantly. No yelp. Just a thud. Amira froze. Her breath hitched. Echo? No answer. Just the hiss of the streetlight above them. She dropped to her knees, hands scrambling across the pavement. Her fingers met fur, then warmth. Wet. Her palms came back red. Echo. She pressed her face to his neck, trembling. "No, please, no." The boys took off running, sneakers slapping asphalt. One turned back, whispering hoarse, "We gotta tell Reese. She's blind, man. She can't ID us." But they were wrong. She didn't need sight to remember voices. Every accent, every breath, every coward's heartbeat. Behind them, a dark shape emerged from the shadows. Marcus. He'd been tailing her since she left the library. Instinct, habit, his fists clenched, his jaw locked. He knelt beside her, hand on her shoulder. She didn't turn, just whispered, "They killed him, Daddy." Marcus looked at the still body of the dog, then at the bloody trail leading down the street. The storm inside him had been buried for years. Tonight, it woke up. By sunrise, the news had already spread through the neighborhood. Blind girl's service dog shot on Sycamore. No witnesses, no arrests. Just another tragedy swept into silence. But silence didn't sit well with Marcus Cole. He stood in the living room, hands trembling over Echo's empty harness. The air reeked of gunpowder and grief. Amira sat on the couch, wrapped in one of his old military jackets, her fingers running across the name tag. Cole M. She hadn't spoken since last night. Not one word. When the police finally arrived, 2 officers, both young, both detached, walked through the door. One flipped open a notepad. "Sorry for your loss, sir. Any description of the suspects?" Amira raised her head. 3 voices, male. One called another Derek. One said Reese'll handle it. The officer blinked. "Reese? As in Reese Vaughn?" He laughed under his breath. "That family runs half this district." Marcus's stare cut through him like a blade. "So you're not going to do anything?" The officer hesitated. "We'll look into it." The younger cop glanced at the body cam on his chest, then at Marcus's folded flag. "Service animals are property damage on the form," he muttered, "unless it's a felony intimidation angle." "Look into it," Marcus repeated slowly, stepping closer until the man swallowed hard. "Do you know what that sounds like to someone who's buried friends for less?" The second officer nudged his partner. "Let's wrap this up." They left. Door slammed. Marcus stood there for a long time, chest rising slow and deliberate, the kind of breathing soldiers use when deciding between restraint and war. Amira turned her face toward him. "He was just doing his job, Daddy." Marcus's voice was low. "And they didn't." He walked into the garage. When he came back, he carried a small black trunk. Rusted. Locked. Amira heard the click before she smelled the oil. "Dad." He opened it. Inside, a knife, a worn compass, a photo of his unit, a West Coast SEAL team. His fingers brushed over the last item, a folded patch reading a cloth patch that read Ghost, the nickname they earned. "I promised I'd never open this box again," he said, "but they killed my daughter's eyes, Amira. They killed the one thing that saw for you." Her chin trembled. "Don't do this!" "I'm not starting a war," he said, sliding the patch into his pocket. "I'm finishing one someone else started." He spent the next hours walking through their neighborhood, not in uniform, but in presence. People whispered when he passed. The old veterans at the corner store saluted him quietly. He found Reese Vaughn first, sitting outside his auto shop, gold chain flashing in the sun. Marcus's shadow fell over him. Reese looked up, grinning. "Well, well, if it ain't the local hero." "You sent your boys after my kid," Marcus said. Reese's grin faded. "You got proof of that, soldier boy?" "I don't need proof," Marcus said. "I got memory." Reese stood. "Careful what you stir up." "My boys don't scare easy." Marcus leaned in, voice like steel drawn from a sheath. "Neither do ghosts." That night, Amira sat by Echo's empty bed, tracing her fingers along his collar. She pressed it to her chest and whispered, "I know you're still with me." Outside, thunder rolled. Not from the sky, from footsteps. Marcus was gone. And the men who killed Echo were about to learn the difference between violence and vengeance. The first crack in the silence came at noon. A crowd had gathered outside Haven District Police Station, phones raised, voices buzzing. The headline on every local feed read, "Blind teen service dog killed. Police say no leads." But everyone knew that wasn't true. Everyone knew who ruled the streets east of Sycamore. Inside the glass doors, Marcus Cole stood motionless, a storm in still water. He'd come in quietly, wearing the same faded jacket he'd worn since the Navy. No weapons, no shouting, just presence. When he stepped up to the front desk, the young sergeant stiffened instinctively. "I'm here about the Sycamore case," Marcus said. The officer flipped through a clipboard. Still under investigation, sir." "Then investigate faster." "Sir, you'll have to—" Marcus leaned forward, voice dropping an octave. 9 mil, likely G2C, same platform your last 3 Vaughn arrests logged. Straw purchased through the cousin. Check your evidence locker cross-refs." The room went silent. Even the air seemed to hesitate. "How do you—" "Because I trained men to track ghosts through sandstorms," he said. "And you think I can't track cowards through my own city?" The officer swallowed. "Sir, please step back." Marcus stepped forward. "If you won't protect her, I will." Behind him, the doors burst open. Flashbulbs, reporters. Someone shouted, "That's the Navy SEAL, Father!" Another yelled, "Sir, is it true you're taking the law into your own hands?" He didn't answer, just walked through the flashing lights, jaw tight, expression unreadable. The footage would go viral within hours. A father's calm fury under a corrupt system. By evening, hashtags exploded across feeds. Justice for Echo. Gamira deserves peace. SEAL vs. System. But the storm wasn't just online anymore. That same night, Marcus arrived at the yard, Reese Vaughn's auto lot. Grease-stained walls, dim bulbs, trap beats humming through cheap speakers. 3 of Reese's men sat outside, laughing, beers in hand. Marcus's truck pulled up slow. Door creaked open. Silence. "Yo!" one of the thugs said, squinting. "You lost, old man?" Marcus stopped in the light. "No, I'm home," the biggest one stood, cracking his knuckles. "You think you can walk in here like you own—" The word died in his throat when Marcus's hand shot forward, not with a punch, but a movement, fluid, controlled. One twist, one redirect. The man hit the ground, gasping, wrist folded backward, weapon sliding across concrete. The others froze. "I told your boss to keep away from my daughter," Marcus said, voice low, steady. "You should have listened." Reese appeared in the doorway, pale and sweating. "You gone crazy, Cole?" "There's cameras everywhere." "Good," Marcus said, stepping closer. "Then everyone will see what kind of men you hide behind." He tilted his chin toward the soffit camera. "Wave to Internal Affairs. They've been hungry." He didn't hit him. He didn't need to. The silence, the precision, it scared them more than violence ever could. Later, as sirens screamed in the distance, Marcus walked away, disappearing into the dark. Inside the garage, Reese grabbed his phone with shaking hands. "Call Derek," he hissed. "Tell him to hide." Tell everyone. The ghosts awake. And back at home, Amira stood on the porch, fingers brushing Echo's leash, feeling the air vibrate with a storm her father had just unleashed. The streets had laughed when a blind girl cried. Now the city itself was about to learn what happens when the quiet ones start hunting for justice. By dawn, the city was no longer laughing. What started as whispers in the neighborhood had erupted into a storm of cameras, headlines, and fear. Navy SEAL father hunts killers of blind girl's service dog. Justice or vigilante? Every outlet ran the same footage. Marcus standing at the precinct desk, eyes cold as steel. But beneath the headlines, something darker brewed. A city councilman demanded Marcus's arrest for threatening law enforcement. The police chief promised internal review. And somewhere behind all that noise, Reese Vaughn called a meeting in the back of his auto yard. Not with his crew, but with men in uniforms. Detective Harris, Sergeant Coley, 2 officers who'd been on the take for years. Reese slammed a fist on the table. You said you had Cole under control. Harris's tone was cold. You said he wouldn't be a problem. You didn't say you were dumb enough to kill a service dog. Reese sneered. You think I shot it? My nephew panicked. Doesn't matter. Whole city's against us now. Harris leaned closer. We clean this up before the feds sniff around. Clean it up how? Make the SEAL look unhinged. Break his image. Turn the hero into the threat. They planted the first lie within hours. News feeds shifted tone. Anonymous sources claiming Marcus had attacked police, that he was suffering combat trauma, that his mental state was deteriorating. A blurred image circulated online. Marcus at the auto yard, half-turned, one hand raised mid-defense. The caption read, Footage shows ex-SEAL assaulting unarmed civilians. Suddenly, the story wasn't about Echo. It was about Marcus. Reporters camped outside their home. Drones hovered near the window. Neighbors whispered, He's losing it. But Amira knew better. She sat on her bed, listening to the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the clock, and the faint sound of her father loading something metallic. Dad, she said quietly. They're twisting it. He paused. They always do. You can't go after them alone. I'm not. He handed her his phone. You're going to help me show the truth. Amira frowned. How? He smiled faintly. By letting them underestimate you too. A bone conduction bud sat under her curls. Marcus monitored from the truck, pin drop mapping her taps. 1 for safe, 2 for stall. That night, while the city's eyes fixated on rumors of the rogue SEAL, Amira walked to the corner store alone, white cane tapping, earbuds in. Except she wasn't listening to music. She was recording. Reese's men were waiting, just as Marcus predicted. They cornered her near the vending machines, whispering too close. Daddy's gone off the deep end, huh? She tilted her head, calm. Funny. He said the same thing about you. Their laughter faltered. She smiled slightly. Say hi to my audience. The red light blinked from her pocket. When Marcus uploaded the footage an hour later, it exploded across every platform. Thugs harass blind girl, while police do nothing. Public rage reignited. The chief called an emergency press conference. But Marcus wasn't done. He delivered the finishing blow. The IA friend stitched what Marcus gathered with 2 sealed affidavits. Marcus burned a clean copy. A flash drive slid under the FBI field office door that same night, filled with emails, transactions, and surveillance clips proving Reese's network of protection, corruption, and bribery. The next morning, federal agents swarmed Reese's auto yard. Cameras caught him in handcuffs, shouting, You set me up, Cole? Across the street, Marcus stood beside Amira, quiet as dawn. She held Echo's collar tight in one hand. Justice had finally entered the system. And for once, the system couldn't look away. The raid shook the city awake. By noon, every major outlet carried the headline that no one thought they'd ever read. Police protected gang responsible for killing service dog. FBI arrests 6. Helicopters circled. Cameras flashed. Reese Vaughn was dragged out of his garage in cuffs, shouting, You'll pay for this, Cole! But his words were drowned out by the roar of the crowd. Neighbors, parents, veterans, people who'd been too scared to speak until now. For once, the noise wasn't against Marcus. It was for him. By sunset, the mayor's office issued a preliminary statement of responsibility. We owe an apology to the Cole family. This city failed them, and they reminded us what courage looks like. Marcus didn't smile when he saw it on the news. He just stared at the folded flag above the mantel, the one that came home from a mission his brothers never did. He whispered, "We kept the promise." Meanwhile, Amira stood in the backyard, Echo's collar dangling from her fingers. For the first time since that night, she smiled. Not from joy, but from release. Her world, once filled with whispered cruelty and pity, had grown loud again, but in the best way. Children from her school came to visit. They brought notes, cards, even petitions asking for Echo's law to ensure service animals harmed in hate crimes would be treated as victims, not property. She laughed when one boy said shyly, "Your dog was braver than half the cops." That night, she sat with her father on the porch steps. The air was thick with the scent of rain and barbecue smoke drifting from nearby porches, life finding its rhythm again. "People keep saying you're a hero," she said softly. Marcus chuckled, eyes tired but bright. "Heroes save lives, sweetheart." "I just protected what was left of ours." "You didn't just protect it," she whispered. "You rebuilt it." He turned to her, pride and grief woven together. "Echo did that. He bought us enough time to fight." Lightning flickered on the horizon, not thunderous but distant, cleansing. In that silence, Marcus reached into his pocket and handed her something small and metallic. Echo's tag. But now it was attached to a new collar. "I've been working with the Veterans Foundation," he said. "They've got a new pup ready for training." "His name's Valor." Amira's eyes filled. "You mean—" "He's cleared to begin with you. We'll start slow. Orientation first, then guided routes over the next few months." She pressed the tag to her lips, whispering, "Thank you." In the following weeks, their home became a beacon. The local paper ran a follow-up piece. From tragedy to triumph, the Cole Foundation opens its doors. Marcus launched free self-defense workshops for disabled teens, veterans, and survivors of violence. Each banner bore the same motto etched on the gym wall: "Discipline protects the defenseless." Inside the first class, Amira stood with Valor beside her. She wasn't just learning, she was teaching, her voice steady, confident. "Courage," she said, "isn't about what you see. It's about what you refuse to look away from." The room fell silent, every heart tethered to her words. Outside, the city glowed, not perfect, but changed. And on one brick wall, painted under Echo's mural, read the line that now defined them both. "You can kill the light, but not the one who remembers where it shines." They killed her dog thinking they could silence her. But they forgot. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means calculation. And when that silence finally spoke, it roared through an entire city. Amira Cole lost her eyes long before that night. But she saw clearer than the men who tried to break her. She saw the truth about power and the strength that grows in darkness. And her father? The man they called dangerous? They were right. Because danger isn't always destruction. Sometimes danger is the quiet man who refuses to let injustice breathe another second. Echo's grave became more than a memory. It became a movement. A promise that no voice, no life, would ever be small enough to bury again. Now, when the wind passes through the Cole Foundation gates, the chimes sound like an echo of a bark once heard in the dark. Steady, defiant, eternal. This is Black Stories, where pain